Hey, good morning, everyone. Not going to show any exercises this week. I had a really good request from one of our members that wanted me to talk a little bit about how to deal with addictions and, dealing with certain foods that might cause problems for you. Also giving up alcohol. A big part of my story when I was, over 600 pounds, the first thing I had to do was give up drinking alcohol, because I was drinking a fifth of vodka every day and I had to cut back on that. And I ended up quitting cold turkey, which was very, very difficult. It was definitely not easy. And doing something like that, you really shouldn't do without medical supervision. But I didn't really know any better at the time, and I decided to quit, you know, without knowing the risks involved. And apparently, when you quit drinking, you get these things called withdrawals, and the symptoms could be life threatening actually. In my case, I had cold sweats. I couldn't sleep for long periods of time, and I was very nervous, very anxious, and it took me a while to get over. It took me a couple of weeks, really. But I just dealt with it. There were a few different ways that I did deal with it. One was just keeping myself occupied all the time, playing video games. I used to play a lot of video games when I was bigger, and to me at that point it came naturally. I hardly ever play them anymore, but um, at the time, just doing things that kept my mind off of, things like drinking and um, just things that were giving me problems. So anything that can keep you occupied is the best way to help you kind of get over something, especially if you're trying to quit something. Like I said, necessarily, I'm not encouraging you to quit without seeing a doctor, but if you were so inclined, keeping yourself mentally occupied is the best way to do it. Reading books, keeping busy, doing whatever kind of hobbies work for you. For me, playing video games was great because I could literally just stare at a TV and get lost for hours on end without realizing the passing of time. So, if you read books, if you like to cook, if bird watching, it doesn't matter. Whatever keeps your mind occupied is the best thing to do, I think, especially when you're trying to give something up, because being idle and being bored, really sitting around without anything to do is probably the worst way to deal with it, because at that point your mind will wander and you will, begin to think about the things that are giving you a problem. If I sat around all day thinking about alcohol, I would probably crave alcohol. So it's best to keep your mind off of it by doing other things. Other than that, another part of the question, which was really good too, was how do I deal with food addictions? And right now, you pretty much what I've come to realize after I've been at my goal weight for I think about 7 months now, and one of the big things that I've kind of realized with some foods that I do find addictive is that you have to realize that you kind of have two choices here. One, you can moderate, which you can basically just, all that means is you limit your intake of whatever that food is. So if you like something a lot, you just, if you like to binge on it, if you like to eat a lot of it, then you have to find a way to moderate it and eat it in small portions so that it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect your health. The other option is to give it up entirely, which when it came to me with alcohol, giving it up entirely was the only option. I mean, drinking alcohol in moderation really isn't an option for me because I'm an alcoholic basically. So when it comes to food, that is something that it's a case by case basis. It depends on the person really, as to whether you're addicted to something or not. That's really up to you. That's up to a doctor to determine. But when it comes to giving things up, it depends. For me, a big thing right now is cookies. I absolutely love cookies. Um, I tend to stay away from them. It's tough for me because it's if I get a box of cookies, it's hard for me to eat just one. It really, really is difficult, and I just love eating them. There's something to it. There's the texture. There's the sweetness. Um, I just don't get the same thing with things like, say, ice cream and all kinds of other foods that people may be addicted to. For me, it's cookies, and I just have to avoid them, really. And I've tried time and time again. I've tried to eat them in moderation. I've tried to, go out of my way just to get one cookie or something. And it's tough. I live at home with my parents, and they bought a bunch of Girl Scout cookies, and they've been, sitting out on the counter. I walk by them every single day, And I think it was a couple of weeks ago I had a couple of Thin Mints, which are my favorite. I absolutely love them. And I managed to have this one serving, which was 4 of those little tiny cookies. And I could eat a whole sleeve of those things. You know, they come in the package where you get a whole sleeve of them. And I was very lucky that I could just eat the 4, you know. It's on the weekends. I tend to splurge. And then, you know, if I just tend to treat myself every now and then, in that case, you know, it was Girl Scout cookies. But the key is to know that you do have power over food, really. You know, even in my case where cookies are very difficult for me, it's kind of nice to be able to exercise that power and be able to say, hey, I can eat 4 of those and I'm okay with that. I can move on. But for the most part, when it comes to cookies, I tend to stay away from them entirely. I have a hard time moderating them. So in my case, it's usually I stay away from them entirely. When it comes to other foods, there's another option as well. I mean, is finding alternatives to foods that you like. A lot of people, it's potato chips. People love eating potato chips. And for a lot of people, it's the texture. They just like the crunchiness. Another part of it is they like the saltiness. You know, they like the salty flavor. For me, I think I did like potato chips a lot. And I do occasionally have them every now and then, but I don't really crave them. But a good substitute for potato chips is cereal. You know, I bought a box of Special K when I first started losing weight, and I just munch on them like they were potato chips. You know, literally just eat them, and you kind of get that crunchy texture that you crave. So, munching on cereal might be a good option to eating potato chips. You know, and a lot of people would say, you know, a lot of health nuts would say, oh, you need to eat broccoli and you need to eat a lot of vegetables, which is true. You need to eat vegetables, but if you really want that crunchy texture, you're really not going to get it from vegetables. So, like I said, for me, cereal was a good substitute for potato chips. Just off the top of my head, thinking of another one, ice cream. When I was really craving ice cream, some other things I could get were my non-fat Greek yogurt. I would get non-fat Greek yogurt. I put a little bit of sweetener in it. I would put Oikos, and I would actually have just a little bit of Splenda in it. And I know people are against sweeteners, but in my case, you know, having a little bit of yogurt with some sweetener is probably more healthy than having, you know, a pint of ice cream. So the nice thing about the yogurt is it's, you know, kind of creamy. It gives you that texture, kind of like you're eating ice cream. It worked for me, you know, so everybody's different. Everybody needs to find out what works for them personally, you know. Just kind of be smart about it, you know, think deep into what causes your addiction, what causes, you know, that need for that food or whatever it is that you may be craving, and try to satisfy that need. So in my case with potato chips, I wanted to satisfy the crunchiness. So I got cereal. When it came to ice cream, I really wanted that creaminess. You know, I really liked that. So I got yogurt instead. And it really comes down to what exactly it is you're craving. Maybe it's not the particular food, but it probably is either the taste of it or the texture or something, you know. So you really need to give it a bit of thought before you, try to find substitutes or try to give something up. So, that's pretty much all I have on addictions. It is, you know, there's a bit more to it, you know. And it's tough going through addictions. You can't really understand it unless you really go through it. But that's the best I can explain it. So that was a great suggestion. So thanks for, I won't name them, but thank you for giving us that question. If you guys have any other suggestions, go ahead and send me an email. I'm going to go ahead and send this out today. And if you guys, like I said, feel free to give us some comments, feedback. We'll go ahead and put out another video next week. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you next weekend. Bye.